forgetting. It is 6 o'clock, it's time to start. And everyone knows most of the time what time we start anyway, but it's good to keep it in mind. So we ain't got a quorum here yet. You want to wait a while, Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Johnson, we have a quorum. The committees were reduced in size, so this only has, I believe, 7 members. So I believe they're all here.
Okay.
Mr. Dickey moved out.
Yeah, Carl Dickey moved a little bit, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he quit on us. Yeah, okay, I forgot about him quitting, but he did. He's been gone a month now too, I guess, about it. So we'll get right into the starting of the meeting. And is any discussion on last month's, last month's meeting that we had on, Mayor, you got some discussion, sir?
Not a discussion on the meeting itself. It's just, there's an item that needs to be added into the minutes. Should be on the first page. It should be item 4C, and then there's a subsection 1. This doesn't have the motion that was made by Mr. Nallner, or Commissioner Nallner, and it was seconded by Commissioner Whitaker. And that motion did carry, so it does that needs to be added to the minutes.
Okay. Everyone get that added to the minutes. We'll start open meeting review minutes from November 4th, 2021. Discussion items up on date and Director of State Cliff. Mr. Cliff.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes
Well, yeah.
with the change.
Thank you, because I didn't even think about that. Do I have a motion? I got a motion out there to approve the minutes. I got a second. Do I have a second?
Yes.
I got a second. Okay, David Nallner made the motion. Mr. Whitaker made the second that we approve the minutes of last month's meeting. All right, up on date, Director. All right, then I went from there to discussion items like A and B. Update from Director Sadie Cliff. Mr. Cliff.
We're still working on getting the vehicles. There's a couple of them we're going to try to get running before we put them up on auction block. Some of them we will sell as scrap. They're beyond repair. That's probably the biggest thing that we're waiting on, is just warmer weather where we can get in there and work on them and get them running.
Cliff, I have a question. When, like the weekend we just had, you know, the holidays, and y'all had Monday off too, did y'all put that out on Facebook or anything to let people know that you won't be coming on Monday? Or I had somebody complain that they will have a pickup on Monday and they didn't know that you wasn't coming, but then they didn't know when to have it out so they could get picked up. Is on the trash pickup?
It's on Facebook and the web and the county's website. Yes, sir. Holiday
Okay.
schedules
All right.
are available.
I'll tell them then.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. There's a couple other things that we're working on. If you want to move on to that, or we can discuss this consulting service.
We can discuss that.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
I spoke with Ray late last year, and we still have several items in the basement. The building we're in now, was paid for by an insurance claim when our shed / salt room blew over down in what we called the basement area behind the sheriff's department. I believe back in 2015 is when it blew over. We built enough to replace what was damaged and destroyed. We didn't have any buildings put up for our lawnmowers, our vehicles, our backhoe, paint, and just several other things that we still have stored in the basement. When Ray called, he was concerned about everything being piled up down there from my department. A little bit of the water department stuff, very little. You can carry it out in a bucket. And then what Chief Cochran has and the sheriff's department has down there in tow. And he's wanting us to get our stuff out. So maybe this budget year, we can look at building a small building to store our paints and stuff in. A lot of y'all are familiar with the convenience center. When you first go in the gate down there, there's a little building to the right. The old TVA building used to be the guard shack years and years ago. We're going to start using it for oil-based paint collection. In order for us to host a household hazardous waste day, we have to have a storage facility for oil-based paints, and we have to have electronics recycling, not just a place to throw TVs away, computer towers, monitors, and things of that interest of the recycling company in Gallatin that we're going to start delivering these products to. Require that they be out of the elements in the dry and taken care of. So we're going to be looking to build a small building somewhere on the property at the convenience center. We're just not real sure yet. It'll be small. Part of it will be insulated and maybe electric or gas heat just to keep our paint from freezing. It's not going to be a heated area to keep anything real warm by any means, just a freeze-proof, frost-proof type area. And that's just something that, you know, we've had a constant temperature of about 67, 68 in that basement year round. It stays nice down there, warm. Now it's as warm as it can be, and in the summer it stays cool. So we've just left our paints, floor sealers and that kind of stuff down there over the years. But Ray's kind of concerned about it. He's wanting us to get our stuff out, and I understand that completely. We need to do it, move on up the hill where we have all of our stuff anyway. If we had another big flood, and we could lose quite a bit of our stuff anyway. So we do need to get a lot of that stuff out of there.
Right, anything else on that?
Cliff. The where the electronics and stuff, I mean, I've brought TV, we put them in that old box there, metal box. Do they want them in something more dry or something before you take them down there, or what?
They'll, yeah, well, we're like I said, they're not really interested in TVs. They want monitors, like computer monitors, towers, laptops, and we do get quite a bit of that stuff. Probably I'd say at least a pickup load every 2-3 weeks a month. We would have to go to Gallatin and deliver this stuff. It's right off Airport Road. It won't be an issue. It's just something that we're going to have to initiate and get started before we can do all the recycling that we're wanting to do and include a household hazardous waste day annually at the convenience center.
Okay. I just need a building to put all that stuff in.
Yes, sir. We'll find a little spot. We've talked for years about just putting a shed on the back of our shop to where we could park some of the vehicles and get them out of the weather. And the backhoe is currently parked in a truck slot, which we don't absolutely have to have, but we could get 2 or 3 pickups in that truck slot if the backhoe was around the back. And we could put a little insulated building, you know, to the back of the shed too, and just run power out of the building, or maybe gas. With it being paints and flammables, I'd prefer it probably be electric though.
Okay, that sounds good.
Any questions, Mr. Cliff?
Do you need a motion to do that, or?
No, sir, not yet. We're going to get some measurements and get some prices and then bring it back before budget, and just let y'all hear what's going on.
Okay.
Any further question from Mr. Cliff?
Mr. Lee, like, put a staff and all your workers in place.
No, sir. We're running pretty short. I've got a couple of younger guys that, they show up. And that's a big part of it, but I've got another one that Miss Vicky will probably start working on sometime this week. He's a little bit older, maybe a little bit more of a responsible person, you know, but right now we don't have everybody we need, no, sir.
Anyone else? All right, we've heard Mr. Cliff discuss now on different things here. Let's, we can move to item B, consulting services.
Well, we brought this to the committee in November. It had been discussed a little bit before that, I believe, as part of the solid waste audit, looking at some changes to the urban services, the trash rates, as well as maybe putting out an RFP to compare what a private company can do to what we're going to have to charge for our urban services door-to-door collection, and also possibly looking at expanding door-to-door recycling. We're always getting pressure to decrease the amount of waste going to the landfill, so that the state and everybody's wanting to increase the recycling. That's one area right now where some citizens have asked us to look into, is doing door-to-door recycling. I don't know that it's going to be economically feasible, but this was one of the things we looked at as far as the consulting service coming in to help us with that. So what this proposal would be is to look at our rates, look at what our waste being generated is, how many customers we have, what our billing practices are, compare us to surrounding communities, and come up with a suggestion of what our rate should be going forward. And then also, as part of just an overall to see where we stand, is we put together a request for proposal for a private company to see what they would charge for similar services, and then do a comparison as we go into budget year, see how we need to proceed going forward. There was a change from November. In November, the price was $3,500. However, we got looking at that, and that rate part was not in there. That's $750. So this one I gave you that should be highlighted, so that price actually went from $3,500 to $4,250. So it went up about another $750. That's generally what that is. As far as what this proposal is, Mr. Slee and myself, we try to generate some of these numbers, and we would work with the consultant to get all it together to see what she needs. And when she gets that report together, it'd come in front of the solid waste committee for looking at the rates and whatnot to see what we need to do going forward as far as what those proposals are at that time. So again, this was mentioned briefly in July when we did the solid waste audit presentation. Then we talked about it again in November, but I'm willing to answer any questions any committee members have.
Mayor, that thing we had that she gave us this last time, is that in there, or is this something new, or I'll catch you up there? I missed.
Well, what you have right there, that's the solid waste audit. That was just kind of a umbrella view of where we stand as far as our total, and that was geared more towards your convenience center, recycling and whatnot, and not so much heavily on your door-to-door residential rate. So this is digging a little bit more into the details than that would be. This proposal would actually be see where we stand as far as what we're generating waste, what percentage of it could we divert to recycling, what percentage of it needs to be landfilled, how do we need to charge for our services, how do we compare with other surrounding communities. Then it would come up with a proposal of what should our trash collection rates be. And then also we would put together a request for proposal based on the information we get together to see what a private company would charge us to do the same services. That way we know, we would bring it back to say, okay, do we want to keep doing this in-house, or do we want to look at contracting it out? Normally, you don't contract it out as far as smaller places, but the consultant, when she did the solid waste audit, suggested we look at it as a possibility. So this would be in addition to the solid waste audit. This actually a bit more into the details.
And that's gonna cost $42.50.
For doing the request for proposal and also doing the rate study and making recommendations as far as what the trash collection rate should be. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I have a question or comment.
Go ahead.
Trousdale County, we've never had this done before, correct? Our solid waste, we've kind of, has the county commission come up with the rates? Has anybody looked at them before?
They made a change to the rates, and it should be in your packet I handed out in 2017. They did a change to the rates. I don't know that there was any kind of study or anything done. That's before I came on the commission, and I haven't seen or heard of one that was done. So I think the solid waste audit, as far as I know, that was the first time that had been done. And so my understanding, this will be the first time we've had anything done like that for urban services as well. And one of the reasons we're looking at it is just to let you know, this last completed fiscal year, so FY21, between our actual revenues and our actual expenditures, we had a deficit from what we were collecting for our charges of $66,523.92. So again, that's not budgeted, that's actual. So this would look to see how do we make up that difference. I mean, and could it be done better contracting a company to come in and do it versus us doing it ourselves? If we're going to do it ourselves, what does the rates need to be? You know, how do we need to set that? And then that would come back to a proposal to this committee. Then it would go from there to the county commission as a whole.
Anything else, man? You got anything else?
Well, I was just gonna ask if we've, the audit that they do they do that annually? Is that by this Caldwell? Are they the only ones that do an audit? Or does the state do an audit every year? How's that happened in the past?
This is the first time this was a consultant we hired on ourselves to do it. The state is increasing and the state's increasing the amount of waste they want you to divert from landfills. So we asked for the audit to come in to see where we can find some efficiencies in what we're doing. And that's where I think 12 recommendations, maybe even, I think the initial draft of 15, eventually when the final draft came out, it was 12, I believe. Recommendations came out and we're looking at those. This is a step in that direction. And then also, as far as what's done annually by the state does not audit you. We have to gather numbers to report those to the state, and that is an annual report we have to generate ourselves. So this is the first audit that I know of that's been done on for us as local government on a solid waste services.
I think it's a good idea. I think anybody that, Trousdale County, we've had so much growth, and anyone that goes out there, I mean, our solid waste, they're always full, it seems like to me. So do you need a motion for this to go to the full body?
Yes, ma'am, I would like a motion, and there is one detail I just now remembered. One of the options that would be looked at is expanding the urban services district to provide these services out to some of these areas, Bridle Path, Ridgecrest, and some of these other ones that have been talked about. That was one of the options that was also going to be examined.
I'd like to make a motion to move it to the full body for approval.
I second.
Man made a motion, David Nolan seconded, right? Yes, sir, Mr.
I have a question. Will it require a budget amendment, or is there money within the budget to cover it?
There's enough money in the budget to cover it currently. At this time, we do not, again, at this time, we do not anticipate any budget amendments been necessary to do this.
answer. Anything else on this? We're gonna vote on this, so we have to vote on what he just said. Yeah. Repeat what you said, we're gonna have to vote on this, okay? And I didn't get it all, go ahead.
We just need to have a vote. We had a motion in a second, so we just need to have a vote on the motion that was made.
Oh, okay. Yes, you did. Do what? Well, yes, I want to get it approved or disapproved, one or the other. All right, let's vote on that. How y'all feel on it?
Vote aye. Nobody opposed.
Nobody opposed it, no.
But you. Okay,
I've got some concerns.
all right.
What you got, Mr. Cliff? Anybody else?
What are your concerns?
I like a lot of what she's doing. I'm in favor of most of it. What I'm not in favor of is bidding out garbage collection to an outside company. I mean, if something happens and they can't show up or don't get it picked up, it's gonna be our problem, whether we like it or not. We're the ones that's gonna catch it. So I'm really not in favor of letting that out. And I know that's a minor detail and that's just something we're gonna discuss, but that's a real concern for me.
And I would reiterate, at this point, we're not actually bidding it out to contract it out, just to get information to compare to what it would cost us to do it internally versus for a contractor to do it. So it's not actually, it's more a request for information than it is a straight up bid process.
I have to agree with Cliff. We see how well this farming it out is working up in Davidson County right now. The problems they're having with private collector that just not showing up, and they're trying to scramble and find trucks, and meanwhile the trash is piling up. So I think it'd be good to have the information as a comparison as far as what that might run, but certainly wouldn't be in favor of doing that.
I agree. I'm not a big fan of, we went through that with the ambulance service. It never did do no good. All of a sudden we got hung trying to find some ambulances when the company should ask for so much money on our budget at budget time that we finally worked it out, but it caught us flat-footed and don't want to get caught like that again.
Y'all heard the comments, any more?
I have some concerns about this too. And, yeah, I have concerns about that too. And a few minutes ago, I asked Mr. Salik about if he had enough staff to do what he's doing right now. I see in the long run that he's going to continue to be overwhelmed with with everything that's been thrown at him. But I also see, I remember, this is no negative reflection on you, Cliff, but I remember when the lady first started suggesting things for that we could save money, and when you went to picking trash up from the prison from 5 days, maybe down to 3 days. And I remember the comment was, yeah, we can do that, that would be sufficient. And then the other couple of days, just throw a weed eater in those drivers' hands. Now, we're not gonna be able to retain good workers if we keep overloading them. Truck drivers shouldn't have to come out and work like a teenage summer helper. I mean, we're not gonna be able to retain good employees and stuff. That's the reason he needs to get plenty of help. And so you don't have to overwhelm the employees that he has got. Because I'm totally against letting outsiders come in and do the trade. I see too many negative things that could happen there. But I think the man just needs plenty more help out there, whether it's more part-time or whatever, but employees that you've got that spend there 10 or 12 years shouldn't have to continue to work like somebody that was hired yesterday. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think we just got to take care of everybody and be as efficient as we can by doing it.
Well, go ahead, Mr. Smith.
I will say that my drivers are doing more than driving. They are down here pulling weeds in these new flower beds. I've got two that have been down here painting in the election office and helping with the trim work. They do everything and they don't complain. I don't have any real complainers at all. So we've got good help. That we have is excellent help. But we just running shorthanded, and that's the story everywhere you go. I'm not blaming anybody. It's nobody's fault, but the people saying pay them for staying at home. I mean, that's the biggest problem. And I know they've cut back on some of that. That's fine too. But we've always run short staff. We all pitch in and help each other where it's needed. You know, it's a small community, and I wear a lot of hats. I'm patching tires one day and fixing flats, painting. You know, I do it all too. So it's just something we all try to pitch in and do. We just need a couple more real good hands. And I've thought about maybe hiring 3 or 4 part-time hands for the convenience center instead of full-time hands. We used to run it that way, but this older generation, we're just losing our real workforce. That's the sad thing about it. We're losing our workforce. But anyway, thank you, Mr. Whitaker.
Mr. Mayor, will this thing that Bill Ferguson's put together, will that help maybe hire people, make a little more pay or whatever? It's coming up in front of us.
So are you speaking to me or?
Yes.
I'm
yes,
sorry, it cut off at the beginning, so I couldn't hear you.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
You talking about the compensation study we had done?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going in front of budget and finance. That's the wage scale. Yeah, it does have an increase for, it was originally a proposal to do a 2-step increase. I think what came out of budget and finance, personnel was to do it as a 1-step increase. And it did have an increase overall of, at that time, $236,000. But yeah, it did increase just about every county employee up to, got them within the range of what the market median is. So each position was a little bit different as to what percentage increase it was based on what they're currently being paid. But yeah, it did have an increase in pay for every single county employee.
Thank you. That's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure.
Anybody got anything else?
I've got one more vehicle. I'd lie, I think it's a 2007 Ford F-150. It's an old game warden truck. 240,000 miles. It's wore completely out, but it needs maybe $1,500 to $1,800 worth of work. The animal shelter is needing a vehicle. If she's got the money in her budget, I'd kind of like to just let her fix it and maybe drive it. And we've got a couple more that are getting pretty old, and I've been pricing some used vehicles to put in the budget for this coming year. And my problem is I can't find a work truck, what they call a work truck, to put in the budget, which is just a basic pickup like what all of us drive, white paint, vinyl floors, hand crank windows or electric. Some of ours are both, or either or. And I can buy a new work truck cheaper than I can buy a used pickup right now. It's pitiful, but that's the truth. And it's anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 difference. I just cannot find what they call a work truck and what I'm looking for. So I would like to put in the budget that's coming. I just want to let y'all know what's coming down the pipe, that I'm probably going to ask for another new pickup. I'm just, my dream since I've took this over is to have one weed eater crew in one vehicle, a 4-door pickup. These guys follow each other around in 2 pickups. It's a waste of gas and time, and they scatter, they go every which way and where they're not supposed to be. And it's just hard enough to keep up with them when they're in one vehicle. So I am going to ask for a new vehicle this year, just for that reason.
Anybody else got anything?
I have,
We had, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We had some questions come up in the steering committee about this proposed rate increase on the that's coming before us, and some other questions that come up that we didn't really have anyone that could answer. One was on residential customers. Can they have more than one can? I think that's been answered, that they can have up to 2, but they have to buy the second one. But they don't get charged anything extra for pickup of that second can. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
I don't know how we would bill them because I have 2. A lot of times I just have 1 out. It's very seldom that we have 2 out, and that's the way most customers are. I know we had one guy on Howell Street. He bought one just for grass clippings, and that he only uses his in the summer. So it's hard, but no, we're allowed 2, and I don't know how to bill.
Okay. On the business customers, is it the same for them? Do they have just 1 can, or do they have, most of them have multiple cans?
Most of them have 1. A few have 2, and then there's just a very few that have several. The car wash has 10. They're their own cans. He just puts barrels out there. And the truck, when we bought the truck, the guy said you can dump a hot water heater with it. It'll pick up anything you want. So we do dump the barrels, and we dump them all over town like that, at the ball fields and the park and places.
Sure.
But there's the charge is minimal, and it does need to be addressed.
On the business customers, I see, one thing that we were looking at that seemed kind of, I'll use a technical term, wonky, was that business customers charged $21.50 a month for pickup 1 time a week. And if they go to 5 times a week, it's only $32 a month. So you're picking up those extra 4 times a week for 65 cents each time you're picking up. The numbers on that just doesn't make sense at all. But I think if we're bleeding money in that department, I don't know, how many of our business customers, are most of them once a week, or most of them 5 times every day, or can you give me some idea of what?
Sure. I can give you examples. The car washes, the one here in town is twice a week, Monday and Friday. The one on 25, I believe, is once a week. Minute Mart has 4 cans. They're once a week on Monday. There's a few daycares here in town that have 1, and they're dumped. 1 is dumped twice a week, and the rest of them are dumped once a week.
So do you think most of the businesses are just once a week?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there's not that much, it's multiple.
It's a minimal.
Okay. Would it help to simplify that and take it to, 1 time a week, or twice a week, or 3 times a week, not have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Well, I guess if nobody's using it, it wouldn't really matter, but.
There, like I said, there's a few, and we could discuss that with them. There's some places like Dilla Hayes here in town. She doesn't have a place for a dumpster, so we've always kind of worked with Ms. Tammer to service her. But that's probably the only two-can show in town that gets dumped 5 days a week. I would think that's the only business, to my knowledge.
Okay. It just seems like for that extra, going from 1 day a week to 5 days a week, there's just not enough difference in the cost. Almost like we're picking it up for free. I guess maybe we'd rather do that than have it piled out on the street, but,
What we're looking to do is move a couple of the days, like Monday and Friday, in to Tuesday and Thursday. So we would like to keep that truck in the garage 2 days a week.
okay.
That's another thing that,
And I guess this is the type of things that we'll be looking at in that study and,
Yes. yes, sir.
Being able to
Remapping,
evaluate all this.
remapping the garbage routes is in that study. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, that was just a few questions that we had the other night that I couldn't answer, and we were going to try to find out tonight since we were having a meeting. I think I can relay that now. Thank you, Cliff.
Mr. Mayor. Does we need to make a motion for Cliff to go ahead and start looking at about getting a new vehicle? Or is that just something he'll do with you, or do we need to make a motion to?
Well, he said he was wanting to put it in his budget for next year, so it'll be part of the budget process.
Okay, I just wondered if we need to have our place, consent of it or whatever. Okay, that he can go ahead and start working on getting that information together.
I believe he's already doing that, he's getting prepared on that front. That's why he talked about looking at used vehicles, and he's right now, by the time you pay for a used vehicle, it's better under state contract to get a new vehicle. So, but that'll be part, I'm sure he's already discussed it with me and said it here tonight, so that'll be part of his budget proposal going forward. So that's something that it'll go through the budget process.
Okay,
There's one more thing we need to talk about, Mr. Johnson. We purchased that truck and cans, Mr. Badger and Mayor West did in 2012 and 13, just before I took over. The cans are approaching their 10-year warranty cycle. They are 1,000, I would say 1,150 strong in town right now. We've got a couple that have been stolen and just disappeared off the face of the earth. I have told you the story about the one I seen in Lebanon and did go in the yard and pick it up and brought it back. But when this warranty expires, these damaged cans are gonna fall back to us. And I don't know if that's something we can get Rebecca to look at. I know Lebanon charges, if you build a house here today in Lebanon and want trash service and have to have trash service, you have to pay $75. And I don't know what the monthly pickup is, but you have to buy your own can. And I'm not suggesting we do that at all. I'm just saying that we've got 1,150 cans that are fixing to reach the end of their life cycle and warranty for sure. And we're going to have to do something with it. Now we've got right at 500 in the works on order right now. That'll be here soon, I hope. But we're still going to have some more that are, you know, as they get older, they're going to start busting. We're starting to see them now that are cracking. The wheels are failing, the lids are busting and stuff like that. So next budget year, we may ask for another 500 cans, just so we're ready. Not this budget year, next budget year. So we're gonna skip a year. I don't see us losing 1,000 in a year, but I would like to stay ahead of this, especially with the houses we're building in town right now. I think I've got 10 just out here on the east side of town that we're fixing to have to supply cans for. And I mean, it's pretty steady. We're seeing them pretty steady.
I got a question on, this may be off of this subject, but I got a question about what was discussed earlier in at this meeting about cans getting tore up and busted and stuff. How do you go about replacing them or charging people?
In the past, years past, if somebody had a damaged one, we would try to repair it. We've had a couple of warranties that we've brought in and took the wheels off of, and if somebody had a busted wheel, we'd fix that. We had one up on West Hartsville the other day that had a big hole melted in the side of it where they threw their ashes in it. And they wanted a new can. We can't do that. So we retrieved the can, cleaned it up, and cut an old busted trash can, cut that exact spot out and just screwed it to the side, attached it to the side, pop riveted it to the side and sent it back. That's, we try to help people. But these warranties are what's going to start catching us. And if an individual does destroy the can, then they are responsible for it, not the county.
Good question. Anybody got anything else? Did we get, before I go on down further, did we get this, paper right here discussed? Did we discuss?
Yeah, that was for informational purposes. That went along with what Mr. Jewell was talking about, the rates question that came up at the the steering committee.
Yeah.
So that one that shows the rates that was passed, that's the rates that were set in 2017. And then there was another thing I handed out, Mr. Slee handed out the full document that it said automated garbage collection. That's where you see your 2 cans. I just printed off one page and highlighted, Mr. Slee handed out the whole policy, but so that's what those papers were. They went along with the issue that Mr. Jewell brought from the steering committee.
Okay, that's fine.
The one with the garbage can on the front is the flyer we sent out to every city limit residents in 2012 or 13 when we started this pickup. And we still attach them to new residents today. We attach this to the can with pickup day and time on the front. We write that on the front and attach it to the can. And set the can, we try to set the can where we want it to be serviced at. So they'll set it back at the same area every time.
Okay, anyone else?
I believe we're down to public comment.
God, yeah, we're down to public comment. That's what I was going to. Public comments, anybody?
So I sat at home listening and I decided I had to come down here and say something. Commercial waste is an option for the businesses. Keep in mind, residential pickup is not an option for those in the city limits. It's a requirement. $19 a month, I'll argue again, is more than it costs the county to pick up that waste and dispose of it. I understand 116 fund has a deficit. Somebody's got a mic on. Had a deficit. I don't believe that comes from residential trash pickup. Your residential trash driver does not drive 40 hours a week. You don't have 4 helpers picking up residential waste. And because it's a requirement, I look at it as a tax. Now, if you consider it's a tax, that means you created a special tax district, which should have been voted on by referendum and was not. If you're making a profit at it, it's got to be a tax. Otherwise, you can only charge what it costs because you're requiring it. This is my opinion. To farm this out, are you still going to require everybody inside the urban services district to pay that? I'm going to give you a little food for thought here. Those of us who live in the urban services district, including Mr. Slee, we pay our 101 taxes. Certain amount of pennies go into the solid waste fund, same as those out in the county, same exact pennies. The difference is we pay money in from the 111 as well. And then we pay $19 a month for trash pickup. I'm paying for solid waste 3 times. Those in the county are paying for it once. You look at the 111, remember, urban services funds are only supposed to be spent on items solely available to those in the urban services. Justify those pennies out of that 111 for service only available to me that I'm not already paying for, like the $19. Years ago, before gas went up, I can tell you that I averaged high going a long way around to Carthage when there was a detour because of the bluff. $9.50 a month was the best I could do. And then they raised it to $19 anyway. That's 100 pounds a can. That was $15.50 a driver. That was another $15.50 in benefits. I said 15 costs you 30. 58 cents a mile. I mean, I averaged everything. You're already making a profit. I do not believe that you can continue to raise a residential fee. I think you're overcharging your customers now, especially when you consider they're already paying out of 111 where those in the county are not. Most people inside the urban services do not use the convenience center like those out in the county. Yet we're paying for trash 3 times instead of the 1 time those in the county are paying. That's my opinion on it. I've argued that opinion for years. I can honestly think we're borderline illegal charging what we're charging for residential trash pickup.
Well, the 116 fund has nothing to do with this. We're talking about the 111. This is only the residential, so it is only the door-to-door trash collection. And in our last complete fiscal year, so last year, we had $230-something thousand in collections came in for charges, and we had 292,000 or so in expenditure. So it was $66,523.92 in deficit. So that's what I'm talking, that is what we're speaking about. It's only the residential door-to-door inside the urban services. It's nothing to do with the general services, the 116.
Okay, so if I read that correctly in the budget on that general services residential pickup, there's 4 helpers and 2 truck drivers.
I don't know the number of workers on it right now. I'd have to go back. Does Mr. Slee, do you know how many are coming out of urban services?
Driver and a half, and we do have helpers in town. They don't just do trash collection. Well, I mean, my guys do it all. I can't make an excuse for that. I do it all.
Not asking for an excuse. I'm just saying you're overcharging for residential trash pickup already. 1 driver. I gave you 40 hours a week. That driver does not drive 40 hours a week.
I'm not overcharging, Mr. Buckmaster, but I can get you a weight. Well, we got a count counter on the truck. We can count the cans and give you a weight on that truck, and you can estimate how much we're weighing per can. Those cans hold up to 350 pounds. I don't know that 100 pounds will hit it.
Okay, so I've asked for that for a couple of years. The exact expense of only residential trash pickup.
I think that's one of the reasons we need to do this, enter into this service agreement to get a study. I don't think we know exactly how much waste is coming from the urban services, how many is coming from the county. I just feel like if we had more information of how many pounds we're hauling off, how many cans are being picked up, what the cans weigh. And am I understanding that this service that she's going to give us that data, she's going to do, the homework and be able to present that to us?
It should look at the amount of waste coming out, and I pulled what our expenditures were right now, and this is just for the urban services door-to-door trash collection. We landfill it at Smith County Landfill. They give us every month we get a bill from them. So far for the 6 months in this current fiscal year, 79.87 tons is what we've deposited in the Smith County landfill. Now, if you we have 917 active residents, according to Mr. Slee's assistant. I got these numbers earlier today. If you're picking that up 4 times a month, that's 3,884 residents you're picking up a month. If you divide the 159,740 pounds, which is what 79.87 tons is, by the residents, 3,884, that should be roughly 41.13 pounds per resident you're picking up per week. Now, whether that's accurate or not, I don't know. I did that real quick, but that is something Ms. Caldwell would look into all those numbers and come up with a figure that she thinks is what should be charged for the urban services. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Slee. I think he's got a little bit more clarification or idea on that.
Any more discussion on this subject? I would like to ask the question, if there's not, Mr. Cliff, on how much does Smith County exact charge a month or week for Charles County to take their garbage up there?
It's $37 a ton.
A ton?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was thinking it's somewhere around there, but I wasn't sure, but that's, some people claim it's too much. But to get garbage up like it's supposed to be, some of these prices are reasonable. That's, as far as I'm concerned, they're reasonable because it's hard work, first of all, to get your stuff ready for Smith County. It's $37 a month. It's hard enough to to take care of all the expenses that garbage will bring on. There is a lot of expense in that garbage to pick up. I unloaded a ton by myself sometime, I think, but this is when I was an employee, and that don't make me better than nobody out here in this building. But I tell you, I done some work that a lot you can't get people to go out there and do now. If that's bragging, well, call it what you want to. I'm not really bragging because there's people just don't want to work. And back when well, yeah, let's get to that. Back when I worked, I did my job. And it was hard work too. What I did was throwing it on in the conveyor, throwing it up, picking it up, wherever it's at. It was hard work. And that's the same matter with people that we got now that you can't get help because they do not simply want to work. That's not our fault. That's not the county's fault. It's not my fault. It's not the mayor's fault. They just don't want to work. That's pretty plain, but I can prove that. That can be, yeah, I can prove that because everybody in here should know that job out there, you drive through the place and look, you got people working, but they're standing there waiting for somebody to come up and throw the garbage in there, which don't drive in there. You also got people standing there that willing to do whatever, but the simplest stuff is not there for them to do whatever. They just gotta wait till it comes to the conveyor or come through the gate. Back when I worked at the convenience center, I didn't wait much to see who was coming through the gate. I was looking to see where everybody was gonna throw it after they got there to throw it in the conveyor. And that may be my, y'all may take that as bragging. Well, I'm not. Simply because a person that does his job, I don't consider it bragging or nothing. I consider it letting the people know that something's wrong when you can't get people to come out and do a job. Where is it at? I mean, you pay them as much as money as you can, then what do? You go out there and drag him by the car, tie and come on, go in here, you gotta work. Can't do that. I mean, I'm not, as I said, I'm not sitting up here trying to make a show or nothing. It's just a matter that I was an employee of the county once, and I felt like it. I done my work, and I felt like that I done what I was asked to do, and I think everybody else should be, man or woman, enough to do their job if they get hired. That's the way I feel about it. I mean, it's just one of them things. So I won't talk no more. I won't say anything else.
I need to clarify something. I misspoke earlier. I should have checked my notes before I spoke. We have not generated 79.87 tons so far this fiscal year in the urban services. That's what we generate average per month in the urban services district for door to door. So for this first 6 months of this fiscal year, the average ton per month was 79.87 tons. So we're generating 159,740 pounds per month in the urban services district. And we're paying $37 a ton.
2,000 pounds.
I just need to clarify, because I know I said that's what we've generated so far this year, and that was wrong. That's what we're averaging per month so far this fiscal year.
A lot of money. So,
Anybody else got any other questions? If don't, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
well, I got the motion by David Donner to adjourn. I also got a second by Commissioner. So be all in favor? Aye.